So we're going to spend some time in this video talking about defending in spaces, and defending the spaces that the attackers want to exploit, right? So we're doing some of this in practice, but I thought that a little bit of an animation plus a little bit of a whiteboard session I think would be really helpful, so you can get kind of a 3D view instead of just kind of looking at it at field level, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play this animation. I'm going to play it from field level first. So obviously the red and black team is the defenders, blue team is the attackers, right? And we're going to look at it kind of at field view, not exactly, but sort of at field view first. And then we're going to play it one more time from the bird's eye view, the sky cam, if you will. So if we move it over here, you can see we're looking down on it. So what we have here is you can see the highlighted red spaces, and you can see the kind of non-highlighted spaces, right? So these are the spaces that a player in those zones are reasonably expected to be able to reach, right? So obviously for the blue midfielders, the ones, the farthest blue players on the right, clearly those aren't actually their spaces. I don't have their defenders filled in. It just made the field look a little bit busy, and that's not really what I'm focused on right now. But for the red team, I want you to notice for the defenders, they have a very solid line, right? You can see the right back, since they're going left to right, the right back a little bit higher than the rest of them, but you can see the wide player for the blue on the left winger, is a little bit wider, so that's okay, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let this animation play from the top, and then we're going to kind of go frame by frame. So as you watch, you can see not everyone is moving perfectly. Again, a little bit of a crude animation, but still kind of indicative of some patterns, right? So we're going to go frame by frame here, right? So as you can see, the blue team has the ball with their midfielder, right? Now look at how the red team's midfield is set up, right? They're essentially pinching him in, right? You can almost see with the diagram of the highlighted red, it almost looks like a claw, right? So they're pinching him in. So if we advance one frame, it goes into the striker. The striker has moved out wide, right? So if there's any attackers watching this, it's good movement from the striker, right? Because he moved wide and took it into his space, right? Now watch what the defenders and midfielders are doing, right? The deepest midfielder, so for our team that would be Rylan, right? The deepest midfielder drops back and it's just kind of in his space, right? He's not letting him turn. So if we advance one more frame, plays it out wide to the winger, right? And the winger doesn't have a whole lot of options available to him, right? That midfielder should probably scoot up a little bit, but, you know, say the play's moving fast, say he's a little bit tired, right? Doesn't quite get there. So winger takes the ball, takes it down the line. Now watch what the right back has done here, right? He has taken him, and he's just taking him down the line, right? He's not putting in a challenge. He's not getting too close. If you look at the border between their two zones, right, he's just forced him to go down the line because the winger still has to go through him, right? So if we back up a frame, ball comes into him, and then just watch him. He's just tracking. He's just tracking. He's just tracking, right? Now, that in mind, flip your view to the top half of the screen, right? Look at the right winger for blue. Watch what he does. The ball is far out wide, and he comes inside, right? Because if that ball comes into the box, he wants to be ready for it. He's coming in, he's ready for it, right? The striker also has moved a little bit. He's dropped just a little bit away from that midfielder, the deepest midfielder for the red team, to try and get a little bit of space, right? So 11 takes it, passes it inside. Now, that midfielder for blue has kind of come up a little bit. So that striker has received it, has seen the midfielder, and has tracked it, right? Now, here's one thing that I'm going to point out, right? Look at Red's defense. Look at Red's left back. He is not goal side. There's not really a pass to the right winger at this point in time because the deepest midfielder has cut him off, and then you can see the left center midfielder for Red is cutting that pass off now. But that left back for red needs to be goal side, right? He needs to be farther in, farther closer to the goal, and a little bit deeper, right? Because you can see right at the leftmost point of the zone for Blue's right winger, you can see he has that little bit of space between the two defenders. That is the most dangerous space for any attacker, right? We call it the half space. The space between one of the center backs and the outside back. So, if we keep playing it, you can see now he's moving, right? Now he's gotten goal side, but he's a little bit late, and had that midfielder been a little bit quicker, he might have been able to slide that pass in. Now, it was good work from the left center midfielder because he saw that pass, he cut it out, but just a little bit slow from the left back, right? So, you can see, rotates out to the other midfielder, doesn't actually quite get there on the animation, but you can imagine what happens, right? Now, see what happens here. He really only has one option. He has to go out wide. So he does. And as you can see, now the left back is in a good defensive position, right? He's between the winger and the goal, right? He's forced him outside. And if you look at the border, he has all of that. The right winger has all of this space in the corner, but that doesn't really concern the defense. It doesn't concern me because he's just out there on his own, right? Now he does have a drop, right? And you can see that the midfielder is trying to cover, right? So he does have a drop available to him. You can see the midfielder for Blue has given him an availability, right? But see, the defender, the right back, has done his job properly here, right? He is between the left winger, the Blue left winger, and the goal, and he's even with his center back, right? So even here, if we zoom in a little bit and go down to field level, you can see he might be just onside, but it's going to be close, right? We want to make the referee or the assistant, the linesman even, make a decision, right? So what happens next? If I can get my animation to play. Ball comes into the box, meets the center back clears it out, right? So if we go back one frame, you can see the striker is in the middle here, and he has three guys all around him, right? He has no option. He can try and slide in between, but it is difficult to beat two guys, right? Defense has done a really good job here of dropping. There was a little bit of concern with the left back, but he fixed it. He got in between the man and the goal, got back goal side. Ball comes in, ball gets cleared, right? That is excellent defending. So let's have a little bit of whiteboard session, right? So looking at the kind of whiteboard view of it now, right? So watch the spaces. We are trying here to block off every possible angle for the pass because what you want people to do is hold onto the ball as a defender, right? When they hold the ball, good things happen, right? Passing the ball, things tend to get a little bit hairier, right? Or you want to force them into a bad pass, right? So 4, 27, and 63 are just attackers. I'm going to pretend that they don't exist for the purposes of this. They should be applying pressure, but this is more a drill for defenders and midfielders, so we're going to just go ahead and leave them there for now, right? So number 9 has a responsibility to guard that pass out to 11, right? If number 10 pops it over 11, it happens, right? But you want to stop that from being an easy pass, right? If 10 goes back to 8, right? 9, you shift here, and 5, you shift here, right? Because now there is not an easy path, right? So if you look at it, there's just not an easy pass to 9. There's not an easy pass to 10, right? So there's nothing available, right? So if we look and we go back to 10, put the ball back with 10, right? And shift 5 back over, shift 9 back over. 10 is looking for an option. So say he goes to 6, and then 6 goes to 7, right? Nice and quick. It is the number 7 for blue versus the number 7 for red, right? So red, you want to box him out and force him down the line, right? So all of the defense is going to shift over here, and here's why. If 7 has the leg to get the ball all the way over here, fine. All right? That is perfectly okay. Because most players don't have the leg to do that. That is a very far pass. And if they do, they really haven't accomplished a whole lot, because look at the zones that 7 and 11 have. They're almost identical, right? So 10, you want to pinch in and just make sure that 9 isn't running behind number 11, right? So what happens if 10 doesn't shift over and the ball's back with 7? 9 can creep behind 11. Now look at that. He has an open path to goal here, right? Because he can go here, right? So if that ball comes in from 7 and 9, 9 has a shot, right? So this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to try and wrap this up. You look at it, your outside backs need to be aware of what's happening in the midfield, right? Keep in mind, you're not man-marking the guys outside. So this is for my left backs and my right backs, right? You are not man-marking the people outside. If they get the ball out on the touchline here, there's a wall. There's a wall that's created here, right? Right here. There's just a wall that's created. We don't really care, right? If he goes back to 6, great. He just went backward. I'm okay with that, right? It's forcing the ball away from the goal, right? If he tries to pop that ball into 9, 11 needs to be shifted over. 10 shifts over a little bit. 9 has to squeeze through this tiny little gap. If your defenders are good, and defenders tend to be pretty alright, I think that they will be perfectly fine with that, right? Midfielders, you need to be working on covering, right? So if we look here, if 7 has the ball, right, 89 needs to be cutting the pass to 9, 5 shade over, right, to make sure that that ball doesn't go bang and then bang, right, and 9 is shading over for 10, right, goal side, right, but not all up in his face, right? Now 89 applies pressure, 5 you slide over, right? So, and then 7 is guarding the outside, right? So again, there's a bunch of space over on this side here, right? And that's okay. That is, there is nothing wrong with that, because if they manage to get the ball all the way over here and rotate out here, by the time they get the ball over here, 10 comes out, 11 shifts over, 12 shifts over, 7 pinches inside, right? Same thing as we did. 5 shifts over again, 9 shifts over. Now look, we've essentially done the same thing on the opposite side, right? Does 10 still have a little bit of space? Sure, 89 needs to pinch in a little bit, right? But remember, there's going to be these guys here to try and cut some space off too. So look, now you can pass back into 10, and they're back with it, and they're completely back where they started, right? 5 is blocking the pass, 89 is blocking the pass, 9 is blocking the pass. So defenders, keep in mind, watch for the spaces behind you, right? There's nothing more dangerous than if 7's too far outside, right? So if he's all worried about this guy, 9 can come in here, ball goes between, 9 shoots, right? Same thing on the other side. Sorry about that. Same thing on the other side. If 10 is, say 10's too far inside, right? That ball comes out here. Now this is a little bit more dangerous, right? Because now 9 can come in, 10 can come in, ball comes into 10, 10 has an opportunity to shoot, right? So again, you can't be too wide, can't be too narrow, right? And be aware of what's happening, right? So if 10 is really far out here, say that 10 for blue team comes across, now 11 tracks him, 5, this is your responsibility here, right? You have to drop in and cover, right? Because if you don't, if you're hanging out up here, 9 is by himself in the center of the goal, right? And I'm sure 12 is going to try and shift over, but hey, maybe 7 comes in here, and guy's trying to cover, still leaves him open, right? So, this is why communication is so incredibly important, right? Your defenders need to be talking to each other. You need to be making aware, hey, this guy's behind you, right? Hey, say 10 is too far wide, right? So if I reset just a little bit, right? Say 10 gets too far wide, and he's trying to mark up on 11 for blue team. Ball's to number 8. Ball comes out to 11. Say 10 gets really far outside, and 11's running out. 12, you need to let 5 know, hey, I need to get back here. Or tell 11, hey, let him go. Or say 7's really far outside here, trying to man mark this guy, right? And say, we're going to move these guys back in here, right? If 7 gets really far outside, and 9 just kind of walks into his spot, right? 12, you got to let him know, hey, 7, you're too far outside. So, defenders, make sure you communicate. That will make your lives so much easier.